Welcome back to Tethered and Whole, the podcast where we explore how educators can remain grounded, resilient, and fully human in the work that we do. I'm your host, Matt Weld. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a journey that begins with self-awareness and ends with self-advocacy and all the steps that are in between. Because decades of research in psychology and education point to one simple truth. Our capacity to support others depends first on how we regulate and support ourselves. So we're going to take a little journey through 7 skills that are vital to creating the world we want to live in. The Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, CASEL, calls self-awareness and self-management the foundation of social emotional competence. Kristin Neff's research on self-compassion shows that treating ourselves with kindness instead of criticism builds resilience. And recent studies confirm that many of us feel the same thing. Teachers who practice self-care and self-compassion are less likely to burn out and are more likely to thrive. So, if we want to sustain ourselves and our profession, we have to move through a sequence from self-awareness to self-love to self-care to well-being, and finally into the agency, self-efficacy, and self-advocacy realm. So let's walk that path together. Starting at the beginning now. Self-awareness is the foundation. Self-awareness is noticing your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors and recognizing their impact on others. Without awareness, we can't regulate emotions. We can't communicate clearly, and we can't engage in meaningful reflection. So, here are a few questions for you. When you're frustrated, can you step back and name it? When you feel that knot in your stomach, do you ask yourself, what's behind it? And can you put words to exactly how you're feeling? Naming is the beginning of taming it. Once we have the foundation of being self-aware, the next step is self-love, or as Kristin Neff would call it, self-compassion. This self-love or self-compassion is the attitude. It means valuing your worth, accepting yourself unconditionally, and treating yourself with kindness when you fall short. For educators who constantly juggle expectations, self-love, it's really the buffer against burnout. Ask yourself, when you make a mistake, do you make amends and move on, or do you stew and ruminate about it? Or when someone attacks your self-worth, can you separate their words from your identity? Or do you become enmeshed and all a big tangle? Do you work on your shortcomings with compassion instead of criticism? Friends, self-love isn't indulgence. It's fuel for connection. Awareness and self-love aren't enough unless they're lived out through practice. And that's where self-care comes in. Self-care is the action. We've talked about the foundation and the attitude. Self-care is now the action. Research shows that regular routines, exercise, sleep, mindful pauses, each of these reduce stress and improve teacher performance. Self-care isn't a luxury. It's maintenance. Here's some reflection questions for you. Ask yourself these. Do you move your body regularly? Do you protect your schedule, or does everyone else own it? Are you intentional about what you put into your body? Because when you tend to yourself, you're better able to tend to others. When awareness, love, and care come together, they create well-being. Well-being is the outcome. Think of well-being as balance. It's a balance between resources and challenges, between stressors and supports. For teachers, well-being is strongly linked to classroom climate, to student achievement, and to staying in the profession. Here's some check-in questions. Do you feel physically engaged? Do you feel physically energized? Do you manage stress with hope or with despair? Do you feel connected to people, to purpose, to your community? Well-being isn't just the absence of struggle. It's the presence of balance. So from that process, from foundation to attitude to action to outcome, we step into agency and self-efficacy. Now, this combination, this is the spark that makes it all happen. The lubrication that greases the skids. Agency means we see ourselves as capable of shaping outcomes, not just surviving them. We actually recognize that we're not powerless passengers. We are the drivers and the active participants in change. Self-efficacy, in the psychologist Dr. Bandura's words, is the belief that we can organize and we can carry out the actions required to manage life challenges. It's confidence, but it's confidence rooted in experience, reflection, and feedback. So think about these questions. When challenges come, do you feel capable of change or do you feel stuck? Here's another one. When I fail, do I see it as feedback or as proof that I'm not enough? And finally, can I draw on past wins to face today's struggles? Friends, agency is the capacity to act. Self-efficacy is the belief that you can succeed. Now, finally, let's talk a little bit about self-advocacy. This is agency and self-efficacy in action. It's the courage to speak up for what matters, to voice your needs, and to model the same skill for your students. This is what makes everything we've talked about so far real. Without the courage to speak up for what you need, nothing happens. Everything that you've built so far is just gathering dust in some dark corner of a garage. So think about these questions. Here are 3 more. What's one need you've been carrying quietly for too long? Number 2, what conversation have you been avoiding because you fear the response? And finally, when was the last time you advocated for yourself successfully? And then thinking about that successful time, how can you build on that and move it forward? Self-advocacy protects us from burnout and models healthy boundaries for students. So let's do a quick summary because there have been a lot of words and a lot of definitions this week. So here we go. Let's say you want to build something or do something and you want the world to see it. So here it is. Self-awareness is you have an idea. Okay. And then with self-love, you realize your dreams and your fears and name them and hold them without judgment. Self-care, you actually make the thing. You do the thing. And this self-care, this is you doing something. All right. Now moving into the well-being piece, this is what you've been striving for. Everything has come together and you have a final product. Your dreams are finally a reality and there's a product on your workbench. All right. Now, using agency and self-efficacy, now your thing needs to come out into the light. You've learned the skills to bring it into the world and you believe in yourself and your dreams. Using self-advocacy, we understand that we can't do everything alone. We need other people. We need products. We need mentors. We need coaches, parents, colleagues, collaborators, all these other things to accomplish our goals. And so asking for help is a necessary step forward and toward making everything that you've worked for so hard to be real, right? So here's my challenge for you this week. First, think about something that's been niggling at you for years. What conversation would bring relief or clarity? Reach out. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for someone to ask. And second, notice the inner critic. The next time you extend yourself grace or feel proud of something you accomplished, I'll bet there's a voice ready to negate it. Talk back. Ask the inner critic, what's your source? Where's your evidence? Because the journey from self-awareness to self-advocacy isn't optional, friends. This is survival. And when we do this work for ourselves, we create schools and communities where both teachers and students can thrive. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Tethered and Whole. Until next time, stay tethered, stay whole.